Thank you, everyone. It's 6:02 p.m. and I'll call the meeting to order in advance because we do not have officers yet. I'd like us all to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you very much. So as soon as we establish officers, we will, I will turn the meeting right on over to whoever you appoint as chair. To start, I'd like to go around and do introductions. And then Town Councilor Farrell would like to speak to the charter, to the charge. So my name is Kirsten Hildenan. I'm the Administrative Support Coordinator. I help organize boards and committees, and then once they're up and running, I walk away. So, over there.
Good evening, everyone. Mike Malaguti, I'm the town manager.
Hi, everyone. This has been so exciting that we're all going to be together and get this process started. Sherry Farrell, your town clerk, and I'm going to be, Mike, would you call it like a town hall liaison?
Staff
Kirsten?
liaison, exactly right.
Staff liaison, so here to help.
All right, and then let's start down there with you, Ray. Just your name and...
I'm Ray Breslin, nobody in particular. I'm just a volunteer, trying to pay attention, and hopefully we can all work together to accomplish some great things.
Hi, I'm Ann Ciampa. I'm the curator of the Londonderry Historical Society and the past president, and I am also on the planning board at this point.
Hi, I'm Dave Ellis, member of the Historical Society.
Hi, I'm Kathy Wagner, former town councilor, town treasurer, former planning board, former heritage commission, former demolition delay chairman who saved quite a few historic properties, and current owner of a 1772 farmhouse and 1840 barn.
I'm Frank Holsworth, former police officer. Right now I'm doing a lot of being retired, and I like it.
I'm John Blay, Londonderry Lions Club. I have a problem with, I don't know if this is the right time to do it or not, but I have a problem with Tuesday nights. I have a commitment on Tuesdays, which I'm obligated, I can't get out of it. So depending on what day we set the committee as a meeting day, I may have to drop out. Apologize, but that's where I stand.
If, just before we keep going, we haven't, you guys get to determine that at the end of the meeting. The only ones that are fixed is this one and the one next week, and after that, it's flexible. You all decide that amongst yourselves.
Again, don't do
Yeah.
anything based on me. I just want to help if I can.
Derek Deanna, lived in Londonderry my entire 37 years of my life. And I work for a company called PICA. I'm the Director of Corporate Global Quality and Operations.
I'm Larry Casey. I'm the chair of the Londonderry Arts Council.
Okay. Councilor Farrell, take it away.
So we have asked, the council has asked for this committee to be put together. We'll be amending the name of the committee to something more along the lines of the Londonderry Town Meeting House Committee, just so that there's no confusion. The charge is you have 90 days. So October 1st, we're going to be looking for some responses from this committee. Understand that we'll be amending the charges, at our next meeting to be more clarified from the standpoint of that. What the council is looking for is what is the best and most economical path for phase one to put the building back in service, and for you to determine what are the possibilities of that building being used for. I want to be very clear. This is not a historical committee. This is not a science project. This is not a $3 million project. This is to figure out how do we take the first step of putting this building, which is of great value to the town of Londonderry, back in service. And that is the charge of the committee. Nothing more, nothing less, and it's pretty simple. I know it's not an easy task, but that's the simple charge. So we thank you. We thank you for your service. We need to have some sort of an idea of what it's going to cost, because we're going to go into budget and try to figure out how to fund it. We'll also look for you to recommend funding mechanisms, such as whether it be private entities or donations or fundraising or anything along those lines. But again, the charge is to put it back in service. The longer the building stays closed, it deteriorates every hour. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Farrell.
John, can are we going to get any aid in costing what we're discussing?
Town manager is here at your service.
Okay?
All right.
I'm happy to speak to that,
Okay,
David,
as long
shortly.
as we got somebody that knows what things cost.
All right. So moving forward, the committee is currently comprised of 7 full-time and 2 alternate members. One of your full-time members, Dan Gore, couldn't be here this evening. So we're going to move on to the election of officers. You're going to choose a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary from amongst the full members of the committee. And the full members will vote on those officers. The chair is the primary responsibilities is running the meeting, making sure there's effective communication between members, and acting as kind of the central hub of the committee. Vice chair, of course, takes over when the chair cannot be there. And the secretary is responsible for ensuring the meetings are documented, minutes are taken, notes are taken, followed through on. So, without further ado, I'd like to open it up for all of you to discuss who you would like as your chair. I will mediate this, and then once the chair is chosen, I will pass it on to them to run the rest of the meeting.
I have a thought to share, if I may.
Okay.
I'm interested in your background, Derek.
Yes.
In terms of the timeline that we're dealing with, the complexity of the project. I was impressed with your presentation at the town council meeting recently. You're in a leadership, business leadership role. You've got operations director experience. You've done a lot of project management. You've been involved in construction projects. If I'm not mistaken, and you don't have to call me sir.
Yeah, it's a habit.
Make me feel old.
It's a habit.
That's fine. You also have deep roots in the community, and have expressed your concern for this project and the quality of life in Londonderry moving forward. You're also apparently the youngest member of the group, from what I can tell, and my feeling is that you have more at stake. You and your family and your generation have more at stake in terms of the long-term future of this town asset than the rest of us do. We all bring experience with the town and to the table, but I'd like, with your permission, to put your name forward in terms of the chair's position.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, and I would be more than happy to do so. Give you a little bit more of my background. So, obviously, as I stated, been in Londonderry my entire life. Best friends with your brother.
Derek grew up down the street from me, full disclosure.
And have 3 kids myself, 2 of them going into high school. I'm also I just actually got promoted to the head JV coach for the high school. I was the M soccer coach. Outside of that, in professional career, as I think I stated the other day when we had the meeting, I was in medical device, still technically a medical device, just on the electronic side of it, for a little bit over 15 years. And from the perspective of build-outs, right, which is what we're really working on here. I've built out brand new offices, brand new manufacturing sites, not only here in the US, but in China and Malaysia, brand new medical surgery centers throughout Massachusetts, and one actually in Bedford, New Hampshire for IVF. And then on top of that, I didn't bring it up during the meeting, but I was also on the board of directors for the whole project that they were doing at Rolling Meadows as well, when they were redoing the entire buildings because of the fact that they were falling apart. So we had that huge plan to lift all the buildings, reface them all, put new septic systems in, and so on and so forth. I think it was about a $4.6 million project. So I'd be more than happy to and kind of run whatever you guys need me to do, put together project plans. I actually have one up here that I was gonna set for today, just a Gantt chart to map out our project plan from a cost and completion perspective. So more than happy to do whatever the town needs. I just want to see it, you know, be useful to us. I remember when I was younger going to birthday parties there, right? So they used to have birthday parties there and everybody would rent it out and use it. And I've seen that kind of just go away over time. Not even just due to the deterioration of it, but I feel like a lot of families these days have lost that, right? Lost of, hey, I have this hall here, I'm just gonna use the hall. They take their kids to these jump places, these arcade places. So, you know, moving away from potentially just renting it out just for that and just coming up with a good idea between all of us to get the best of the building. I obviously don't want to see it going away either. So the best of what we can do with the existing building. That's my piece.
Well, I think in terms of picking a chairperson, which is what I think we're supposed to be doing at the moment, we need to look for someone that is able to keep us on track, focused on whatever schedule the meeting is. So we want someone that's good at organizing a meeting and keeping everyone, herding the squirrels. I'm not standing up and volunteering for that myself, but I'm sort of looking for someone with those skills rather than necessarily the skills to try and work the entire project through. I mean, that's what the committee as a whole will do when we get into it. What we need to do is elect a leader and a deputy leader, and then pick someone who is reasonably good at the clerical side of keeping notes so the minutes are accurate. Again, I'm not standing up and suggesting myself because I have a habit of getting deeply engrossed in a conversation and not writing it down. That is not what you want for a secretary.
Thoughts from the rest of the
I
committee?
think that I would like to nominate Kathy
As
Wagner.
chairperson, yes. I
Yes,
had
as
been
chair.
sort of watching. Would you tell us a bit?
The only way.
What are the pros and cons of having you as a
Kathy,
chairperson?
could you just pull your microphone closer to you, please?
Oh,
Thank you.
I forgot. How do I say that? I will take it if you guys will vote for Derek to be vice chair, because I really like, the reason why you stated was he's young and we want him to stay involved. I mean, I'll take it because I know how to push through.
Yeah, I mean, you've been involved in a lot of meetings,
So
and
I
you know how to keep people focused.
Right.
So
But-
we have a,
But I think before we even charge with me as the chair, we do have a motion on the floor, which was,
Larry didn't actually make a motion, he made a suggestion.
okay,
I will make a motion to put Derek forward as chair.
so I
Okay.
think that needs to be resolved before we move on.
Yeah.
Okay, because then Frank just made a motion. Well, Frank, is it okay if we resolve?
Yes,
So
you
do
have
you
to.
accept the nomination as chair, for position as
Yes,
chair?
yeah.
Okay, is there a second to that nomination? And you can't, you're,
Oh, you're an
not
alternate.
yet.
Nice try. Nice try.
Okay, so there's no second as of right now, so that motion fails on the floor. We did have another motion from Frank to nominate Kathy as chair. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
David seconds, okay? So we'll vote on that motion. All in favor of Kathy Wagner being chair of the committee, please say, raise your hand. Just want a visual vote for this. All opposed? Anybody abstaining? Kathy and Larry, you abstain, okay? So the motion passes. Kathy, you are now the chair. I turn the meeting over to you.
Okay, I'd like to now take a motion for someone for the vice chair position. Do I have a motion?
What's your first name?
Derek.
Derek? I'll nominate Derek as vice chair.
I'll
Do I have a
second it.
second? So Frank makes the motion. David seconds. All in favor? Motion passes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 0, and, or it's 0, 6, right? It's always the negative first.
Nope, it's the other way around, positive first.
6, 6, 0,
And then abstentions are last.
no abstentions. So that was a unanimous decision of who's here this evening.
Madam Chair, can you establish a secretary now, please?
Who wants to be the secretary? I'll take a motion for anybody that's interested in that.
Who has the capability?
I suffer from David's affliction. I'm laser focused on conversation and the discussion, and
Yes, but I am very poor at taking notes.
I'm saying that I have the same proclivity.
Frank, do you want to be the secretary? Can you hear?
I was just gonna nominate John
Okay.
Blay.
But I'm not, I need to get that settled first as to
Yeah,
who
okay.
and where.
Can we go to,
I think we need officers first before we can move on, Frank.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
So, Madam Chair, if you
okay,
can
well,
determine a,
either way, it'll work out.
so if you can determine a secretary, we can discuss the disposition of the minutes and if there's an alternative solution later, but just if you can establish the secretary who'd be at least,
Can I can't put an alternate in as secretary, correct?
No.
All right, so the floor is open. You're an alternate, Ray. I'm sorry, you can't,
An alternate what?
Oh,
An alternate on
Alternate
the
can't say anything?
you can't make a nomination.
I'm not making a nomination.
Okay,
Oh, he's
you
just
may,
speaking.
you may speak.
I have a question.
Okay.
Is there going to be, a gentleman chose not to step up? Is that chair going to be filled?
Yes, he's
Oh.
just not available tonight.
Well, okay, so
So we're
we're
going to nominate him without
making these
even
nominations
being-
with someone missing.
yes, that's okay. You have to move on,
We
you
have a
have to move
quorum.
forward with the business today.
We
Okay,
have a quorum too.
okay, thank you.
Does anyone have a motion for a secretary?
I did. John Blake.
Do we have a second?
I'll
I
second
don't-
that.
Down the end.
We have a second. Frank makes the motion. Derek seconds. All in favor?
Yeah, okay.
6-0. The, John, you are the secretary.
Thanks. Thank you, I think.
John's good.
Okay, so, staff briefing.
Well, Madam Chair, members of the committee, I'm certainly happy to be here this evening, and I want to thank you. Councilor Farrell, I think covered a lot of this, but I want to thank you on behalf of the town council and the community for stepping forward to deal with this matter that has received a lot of attention and a lot of discussion over the past year. And you might say over the past 300 years as well. I think that one of Councilor Farrell's points I had written down as well, which is, I think, Anne, you would probably say, let's reorient this around the Reverend Morison Meeting House, right? I'm constantly reminded by you when I make the mistake of not talking about its original usage. So I think it's important that we all keep that top of mind. A few things that I'd like to amplify as the town manager that Councilor Farrell covered. The first is just, I think we have seen what the community appetite is for big dollar projects. And I think the community has pretty clearly pared down this project through input with the town council, at least as it was originally conceived. That doesn't necessarily mean that significant resources can't be devoted to this project, but they don't necessarily need to be public resources, as Councilor Farrell pointed out. I took a trip over to Derry with you, Ann, with you, David, and others.
Dave Wally.
Dave Wally. I think that the Londonderry.
Paul Lindeman was.
Paul Lindeman, the Londonderry Times was there as well. And the First Parish Church, as some of you know better than me, is one example of how to gather community support and funding and grant funding for a project. And it included a healthy component of private donations. So, what we, I think, could see as one model to get the project moving forward is, as Councilor Farrell said, getting the facility back in service, because I think, nobody thinks that it should be sitting there empty. Nobody thinks that that's a good outcome. And then pursuing some of these other things as we go. I think what the council is looking for and what would be helpful for the town staff would be, not to let the perfect be the enemy of the good. This is a very short time frame. Not to boil the ocean, as the saying goes, with exhaustive studies and what have you. We're really looking for practical advice and practical guidance about how to go forward. But I want to offer my assistance, the staff's support with any needs that you have. David, to your question about assistance from experts in terms of costing things out, happy to make the town's resources available in that effort. And I couldn't be happier to have Sherry Farrell here as the staff liaison. I think that there isn't anybody who better represents the community than Sherry Farrell. Has more passion for these issues than Sherry, and anything you need from me, you can assume that Sherry has my support, and I think you'll be very pleased with her involvement in this project.
Could I say something, since you mentioned me? I think it's also important not just do it quick and dirty. It's already been done that way twice. This is the third time we're refurbishing it, restoring the floor. We have to get somebody who really knows old houses, old buildings, to do it. I think everybody's on the same page when we say we want to get it quickly up to service, but we have to have the right people doing it that know what they're doing. And I know, Kathy, you have experience now with current people in the field, as have I, that are doing, I'm talking about restoring to floor, not to, with old timbers, but done right to coordinate with the 1779 beams that may be under the floor, which are going to be part of the floor system.
So, just to pull it back, so just to clarify, Mike, our charge is to come up with a plan to open the building.
Right.
We're not talking about adding additions. We're not talking about, we're coming up with the basic plan to just get those doors back open.
Exactly.
Phase one, how do we put the building back in service?
Right.
Okay, this project or this adventure may take 5 years. It may take 10 years. The first thing is that as this building sits, as it is today, it deteriorates every hour. How do we put the building back in service so that we can properly take care of it and we can move into the future?
Question, Mike, will we have availability if we come back with a justifiable reason and plan to tap into undesignated funds? What's that grant that's sitting out there that we're spending everything on? There's probably $118,000 still left in that. I'm trying to find out, will we have that to offset a question going forward to the taxpayers if we determine that's the route we have to go?
It's a good question, Madam Chair. I think that the way that I would respond is there are always potential available sources to cover the maintenance and upkeep of town buildings. And as you know, this is a town building. The floor project was not a small project when it was done last. But I think that that seems to be the major impediment to getting the building back in service at this point in time. There may be others, but there are potential sources of funding existing that could help us towards that effort. I think that I don't want to get any more specific than that because it may cause concern or what have you. But I think that the council would certainly be agreeable to hearing recommendations in that regard. Understanding that ARPA funding and expendable maintenance trust funding is under the town council's jurisdiction. So I can't obligate it or speak for it, but I think that they're interested in hearing options.
Okay, it's open for anyone else that has any questions.
Yeah, it would seem to me that we need to figure out what it is we want to do. And the point of my question earlier about the finances was, I'm looking for someone to say, when we make a suggestion, look, maybe you need to do this, this, and this, someone take a look at it and say, well, that one's okay, but that's going to cost you so much money, you might as well shelve it now.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I think that it would be helpful to have a longer range view about where we're going, so that we don't do anything inconsistent with that along the way. I think that point is well taken. The other thing I'll just throw out there for discussion is, in terms of spending money this fiscal year. Yesterday happened to be the beginning of fiscal year 25. We're not in a no means no situation because we didn't present, the council did not present, the voters did not reject any request for funding associated with the Lions Hall last cycle. But I think that it was a community decision that resulted in, and it was community feedback that resulted in the ballot not including a measure like that. And so I think that needs to be factored in terms of, are there expenses that can be, are there carrying costs that the town is incurring to keep the building winterized and, to preserve it in its current state? Yes. Is that inconsistent with anything that the community said as part of last budget cycle? No. But when we are talking about spending significant money, I think we at least need to have the conversation about whether that should be put to a further vote of the taxpayers. And I just offer that for your discussion and consideration.
I was kind of presuming that as soon as you got into anything much above $1 million, the voters would have to have a say in it some way or another.
I think that, with very specific exceptions, that's generally been the case historically.
Any other questions? Ray?
I think, first off, I think we need to set priorities. What are the priority things that need to be taken care of, and we need to determine what that cost is. Now, we amongst us may not be able to come up with those figures, and so who do we go to get, for instance, the floor, okay? What is going to be done with the floor, and what is that cost going to be, okay?
Yes.
As far as ADA compliant, that's another thing. Electrical wiring, sprinkler systems, all of which may be required to open the building up. And so all of those priority items, we need to figure out what they are and somehow figure out what the cost is going to be, so that then we can come up with a basic figure, whether it's going to be $1 million or $750,000 or $1.5 million moving forward.
I would agree that that's kind of where I'm at as well. We need to stabilize what we've got and render it as bare minimum usable.
Okay.
As is.
Okay.
Correct.
As
Thank
is.
you. Any other questions down from Derek, John, Larry?
No, I think the only real question I had, it kind of goes along with what everybody's stating, right, is what is really needed, right? So from the town perspective, I know that there are people available. So if we were to have a town inspector come in and tell us what is the minimum needed, right, that's no additional cost, right, of having like an engineering service come out and look at the entire structure and tell us everything soup to nuts and charge us, 25, 30 grand.
We've done that.
Yeah. So,
We've done that.
yeah, so just having that bare minimum know of what is the town inspector, what is he expecting, he or she expecting?
Mike,
I
can,
think
can,
Dave can come over.
I'd like to see
Oh.
somebody who specializes in, you know, this type of floor in an older building, just to make sure we don't screw it up again.
Okay. So,
Um,
just a little bit of an understanding. The current floor as it stands today may or may not be an historical floor. It was replaced for about $50,000 to $60,000. What material was used was probably not something that was from historic
Definitely
times.
not. No.
yes, please.
All right. That's number one. Number two is part of the reason why the floor has collapsed is that we have a dirt basement and we have a porous foundation. So we've put people under the building, and when it rains, what happens is the water runs underneath. The structure that is in place now, and the footings are in place now, are sinking. So that is why the floor is falling in. Someone who went under the building stated that I really didn't need a flashlight because I had so much room from the porous foundation. So what I would suggest to you is that you can probably use the building inspector who has said the building is not, usable at this time. He is a world-class framer, so he does understand how the buildings work. Do understand that until you once you get to 99 people, when you hit 100, you need a sprinkler system. The building is partially ADA compliant. There is an ADA compliant bathroom. There is wheelchair access. Is it perfect? No. The second floor is not ADA compliant. So what the council's looking for is what is the most economical next step to say, because what we're really concerned about is, and when you look at houses that aren't occupied, you see them slowly fall apart.
Yeah.
That's what we don't want to happen here. There's a couple of houses in town that are historic houses that are not occupied that are slowly falling apart. That's what we're trying to avoid. So we're keeping a very, very close eye on the building, trying to keep it in a state of just status quo until we can take the next step. I know it's a difficult task. I know it's not easy, and I know 90 days is not a lot of time, but we have to work inside our budget cycles. I hope that helps.
John,
David, please, David, you need to go through me, but,
I'm sorry.
no, but go ahead and ask your question.
There's been talk about whether we could close off the upper part of that and just work with the bottom of it. Would that, I'm sorry, I'm losing myself, to reduce some of the ADA compliant questions?
That's clearly something you could address as a committee and make a recommendation for, if that's
Yeah.
what you decide.
Does the town have any objection to just working on the bottom half and keeping the top secure?
The town
Well,
is
I
looking.
think
The town
that's
is looking for
the whole
guidance.
Committee to decide, and we
Okay.
haven't even started yet, so.
David, we're looking for help. We had a $3 million project come to us. It's not a $3 million project. We put $500,000 out during the budget cycle. There really wasn't any appetite for that from the voters or from anyone on the budget committee or the town council. Frankly, we're not sure what to do. We know we need to do something, and that's why we're asking for your help.
Okay.
Before we have any more questions, this is an organizational meeting. This is not a committee meeting. We are kind of going off on a tangent here. We're doing what the work of the board's supposed to do. This is not the evening for that. Please get your thoughts, your questions, and have them ready for our next meeting. But I think that it's important we start pulling back from all these questions about things that are relative to solving the problem, since we haven't even, as a committee, had a chance to all address the problem. So I would ask we stop refraining from questions regarding this until the committee is in full function and we're working.
Okay.
Frank?
As part of the committee, I would like to ask the town manager and the town council, is Dave Woolley gonna be open to us? Is he going to, can we get some things answered from Dave with regard to what happened with the, whatever $1,000 it cost us to have the building looked at to begin with? If we don't have any of those figures, we can't look and see where we can go and how far we can go.
Does everyone have a copy of the Lions Hall excuse me, the Reverend Morrison Meeting House report that was done by a firm that David
Sampson
Wally.
and
Weston Sampson.
Sampson,
Right, does
Westminster.
everyone have that?
I do not.
Can we please get a copy to all members, Mike?
Absolutely, Madam Chair, and,
Or
and
Kristen, I don't know who I yell at.
just, no, we're happy to do that, and just for everybody who may be watching, we do have a copy of that on the Lions Hall Study Committee website as well, so the public can access that, and we'll use this as a repository for your work.
And can we also let everyone know how much that report cost us as a community?
Yes, the money that was earmarked for Weston and Sampson to prepare that report, yes, we can get those figures for you.
And can we also get Weston and Sampson's qualifications? Were structural engineers involved? Was electricians involved? Or are they just a standard government entity that is used for this type of research?
I think Mr. Wally would be better able to answer those questions, but we'll prepare that information for you.
And I would assume, and I know that's not the greatest word, but that the resources of the town are at our disposal.
Correct.
Mr. Town Manager, Madam Chair, may I address the Dave Wally part of the question? So if it's getting a little ahead on the agenda, but there's already a tour scheduled next week for you with Dave Wally at the Lions Hall, presuming that.
I think since John put a concern on Tuesdays, I think the discussion now is to turn away from the charge. And I'm sorry, Derek, if you have anything, and Larry, if you have anything you want to add, I don't want to cut you off. But I just want to get us moving in the right direction.
If I may, Madam Chair, just, I want to make sure that Sherry Farrell, because she's listed as, under the staff briefing, that if there's anything that she wants to add, that she
Sherry,
has that opportunity.
would you like to add anything at this time?
No, looking
Okay.
forward to, as Kathy, moving it forward as you are. That's
Okay,
great.
so I'd like to find out, since John has specifically said Tuesdays are a conflict for him, is there
Just go to the
any other conflict day?
Wednesdays.
Right, because you have planning board.
Kathy, through the concert
Concerts
season.
on the committee, concerts on the
Right.
common,
I'm on the common
Wednesdays,
every
right?
Wednesday, yeah.
Okay, so we're looking
I
at,
do have I think during the last week of July and the first week and a half of August, I'm likely to be away for about a week.
okay, that's not a problem. Because we can appoint Ann or Ray
Yeah.
to take your spot the day you're gone. Thursdays, how does everybody look on Thursdays?
Fine with me.
That's great.
Derek,
I am good.
John?
I'm sorry about this.
No, this is what we gotta hash
Is
out.
Thursday good?
I can
That's-
live with Thursday.
He can live with Thursday.
Frank,
Yes.
you're retired, so you're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
I can
okay with
generally manage
Thursday.
any night of the week.
Okay, Ian, Ray? Okay, can we move our meeting to Thursday, and can we make the tour Thursday, the 11th?
Unfortunately, we cannot do that on the tour. The tour date is the date that the town council chair and Dave is fixed. So after that, you can schedule your meeting whenever you want, but that was the only time that I could get both of those people in the same place at the same time in the month of July.
John, I think it's
So
okay if you
it's
miss
okay if he
the.
just misses that.
I
know what the
think
building's
it's,
like anyway.
right, I was
I've-
gonna say it's okay if you miss the tour on that
I've been
Tuesday.
in there once or twice.
Right,
Chances are I can probably miss it and not see too much.
all right.
Kathy, if I may, when is this tour?
Now, what
It says
time?
on here 6 PM. Does 6 PM work for everybody? That's my next question.
That's ideal for me.
Ian? Ray? 6?
On what date?
Thursdays?
This coming Thursday.
No, it would be Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, only because it's the tour. After that, we'd move to Thursdays.
Okay. I mean, I've already gone on a couple of tours, so I mean, I
Right.
know what the building is, but, huh?
Derek,
So next
We can get
Mary?
an update.
6
Update.
o'clock?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay,
Thank you.
so we're
Madam
gonna
Chair,
keep,
could you give me could you figure out which next Thursday that you're going to meet so I can make sure a room is available?
that's what I'm asking next, is do you wanna do weekly or bi-weekly?
We've only got 3 months. I strongly suggest weekly.
Weekly or bi-weekly?
My
So we're
preference
looking
is-
for weekly.
My preference is bi-weekly. but-
Mine too. but I can deal with whatever the committee decides.
I would think.
That would mean 2 meetings left in July, 2 meetings in August, 2 meetings in September, which would give us a total of 6 meetings. If we feel like we're in trouble, maybe we could add some. Thoughts?
Kirsten, you're gonna get into 91A compliance, so, if we have subgroups working specific tasks in between those meeting dates, you know, we can still make some headway, if you're open to that.
We could assign task groups to once we've determined what our game plan is, give us all tasks so everybody can focus on it and we can get much more done as little groups looking here and there and putting it all together.
And then reconvene.
Right.
Right.
Kristen, if we do go that method, every time a task force gets together, they're going to be under 91A, correct?
I can get in that into more detail once we square away the time. It depends on the number of people present and what they're doing.
Okay, so what's the following Thursday after the 10th, or, no,
The
the
9th.
11th would be
The 18th.
18th.
the 18th. Is everyone available for our first official meeting on July 18th, that Thursday, at 6 o'clock?
July 18?
What's the following? I don't have a calendar.
Following after that is August
Did we-
1st.
August 1st. Are we good for August 1st? Let's get the cadence started. Will you send out invitations with Outlook, or are we just going to?
It's up to us, isn't
Oh
it?
no, you have a computer?
I don't know that everybody has Outlook, so I think your email is probably going to be the best way to go, Madam Chair.
Okay.
But
okay.
July 18th at 6 p.m., this room can be available, as can it be
And
on-
August 1st?
provided there is no ZBA overflow. If there is a ZBA overflow, you will have to be in Sunnycrest, but there will be a room available August 1st.
And Sunnycrest is fine, because it has the camera in it, so we
think
can
it's
record.
fine.
You
if
will
we
have to
can
move,
hear
you
that.
might have to move back and forth between the rooms, but we can make sure that you have those rooms, yes.
And because of the hoopla, are we being televised?
Your meetings are being recorded, and I don't know, they're not likely going to be live often,
Okay,
but they're
that's
being
fine.
recorded.
Okay, that's
To
fine.
that end, please, friendly reminder, these microphones need to be near your faces when you're talking. So when it's okay to sit back, but when you sit forward, but please sit forward and speak into the mic when you're speaking. Thank you.
Okay, so seeing no further discussion on meeting schedule and I jumped, can we have our briefing on 91A? And then do you have another question regarding?
Yeah, I've got confused here. Are we meeting on July the 9th, Tuesday?
Yes, because that's the only time they can do the tour.
Right, so our next meeting is 9th of July, then 18th of July,
And then August 1st.
and August 1st. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I got the right one.
Can I, is.
Frank, Larry.
Kathy, I'm not sure how long the tour will take, but does it make sense? Although if we have a meeting, we have to have it here, I'm sorry. I was wondering if we could just tack on a meeting to the tour, just to try to get some headway before we have our next official meeting. But if the meeting needs to be recorded, then that would mean we'd have to come back.
I
here to-
think that would be, after the tour, I don't know if we're gonna have time to have a meeting, but I guess the charge I would ask of all of you is to come to our 18th meeting, I got the right date, because I don't have the calendar in front of me, with your first stab at what you think what we need to start really focusing on. I mean, the tour is going to give that feeling. We're going to see where the problems are. Mike, and please, I don't mean to step on anybody's toes, but for that meeting too, or at least after that meeting, I ask that we receive what we can do and what we can't, because we are the town. I know the Mayflower Grange does not have sprinklers.
Yes, in terms of those triggers.
Right,
Yes.
so what is the minimum requirements we have to do to get this building open?
And Madam Chair, you want that for the 18th?
Yeah, I would like that for the 18th,
Okay.
yes. Is everybody comfortable with that? Because if we don't need sprinklers, we're already ADA compliant, maybe the steps aren't, I need to know that. And so does everyone up here, because we're looking for the minimum steps to get that building open. And once we get it open, then we can look at the rest of it.
You can look at adding stuff afterwards.
Right. Because this is only phase one. Any other questions?
No.
And Derek, I'll have you take the lead since you're the construction man.
Okay. But you have all the knowledge from your current
But you're still the construction man, and I want you actively very much involved.
Definitely.
Yes, Ray?
In regards to the Weston Sampson report, do I understand, Mike, that you will present that to all the members?
I'm going to send it along with the cost information to the chair and then rely on the chair to disseminate it to the board. And Kirsten's going to be covering that mode.
Do you have any more hard copies or no?
We never have many hard copies. They're mostly just appended.
David?
I don't need a hard copy, and I believe I've already got an electronic copy at home.
Yeah, and
Ray, Mike, excuse me. Ray, do you need a hard copy, or are you fine with the electronic version?
Electronic version's okay. I just want some of the folks that maybe aren't familiar with it know what has been presented by Weston Sampson, and that doesn't mean we have to go by that, but we
Right.
may highlight some of the things that do need to be addressed.
Ian, you're okay electronic?
I'd like a hard copy of it.
Okay, I have one hard copy. David, you're fine?
I've got an electronic one at home, I'm pretty sure, and if I haven't, I'll find out how to get one.
Okay. Frank,
No, I don't.
you don't have, which way would you like it, hard copy or electronic?
If you give it to me electronically, I'll print it anyway.
Okay. John?
Once I know it's there, I can find it.
Okay, Derek?
Electronic's perfectly fine.
Very- Okay, so I just need 2 hard copies, if you guys could produce those. All right. Are we all set? Any more questions? All right, let's move on to 91A.
Thank you very much. So just to briefly address your concern about the meeting, your meeting, we will be audio recording your tour because that is also a public meeting. A quorum will be present, so there will be an audio recording done of that tour. So you'll have that one for posterity to reference, which actually might be useful for the board, but also for full transparency to the public because we are trying to record all meetings on or off-site moving forward. For those of you who have never been on a town board or a commission before, this might be very new and not in-depth enough. For those of you who have been on many, you're going to tune me out, and I understand, but it's a good refresher. So right to know 91A is what we use to refer to the state's right to know law. Right to know is basically guaranteeing government transparency, the accessibility of government information to the public, and for the public's actual right to know what their government officials are doing. As sworn members of a town committee, you are all considered government officials now, for better or worse. So 91A is the statute number, the RSA number, hence where that 91A comes from. I've given you a handout. I'm not going to read it verbatim. You all can read it and ask questions of Kathy, of Sherry, if you have any. But it basically it impacts you in 3 key ways. The first is your meetings. Your meetings must be posted and open to the public. And so that notice is required to be up a minimum of 24 hours, 1 business day before the meeting. It's required to be posted physically in town hall on a piece of paper on the board. If you go out there, you'll notice a list of all the meetings. And it's required to be posted on the website. If you will be sending that information to town staff, and town staff will take care of posting it. Most of the time, that's going to fall to Kathy. But if you are working in a subgroup of 4 or more people, then you will also need to notice those meetings as well. And that gets me to the question of what is a meeting. A meeting's anytime a quorum of people gather to do business. Now, if Kathy, David, Ann, and Ray are at their friend's birthday party together, that's not a quorum for the purpose of a meeting because you're not doing business. But anytime 4 or more of you are in a place, you could take a vote and you can do business. So that has to be noticed and open to the public. Does that make sense? A quorum is 4 people because that's more than half of your full members. At any meeting, minutes must be taken. And that is, again, a state requirement. Those meetings have to be available within 5 business days of the meeting. You can set a precedent to approve the minutes. I cannot stress this enough. It is not 5 business days from when you decide to approve the minutes if you do that. It's 5 business days from the meeting. Some committees want to approve them first. Approving them is not required by state law. Having them within 5 business days of today is. Any questions on that? Yes, Larry.
So a quorum for this group is 5 members?
4.
4 voting
Because you
members?
have 7 full members, so it's
Okay.
4 members,
Okay.
any 4 members of the committee.
Okay. And that, just for clarification, that includes email communication.
Yes.
So if we're,
I'm going to get to email
Okay, you're gonna get
communication
to
for
that,
this board in a second. Any other questions on minutes? There, right here it lists what has to be required on this sheet and what is nice to be required, what is nice to be there. I cannot stress enough also, this is not a transcript of a meeting. It does not need to, in fact, please don't make it word for word. When you do minutes, you want them to be high level, you want them to be an overview. All these meetings are being recorded, so if someone has an interest in details, they'll be able to go back and reference it. Any questions on minutes or posting meetings? Awesome. All right, now we're getting to the part where everybody has the most questions, and that's talking about email. So the 91A law was created before email was, and so it's been, electronic communications have been kind of retrofitted in. And so we understand that you need to use email to set up meetings to disseminate information. But due to the compressed nature of this task force, we will not be giving town emails to everyone. The time taken to set it up and the time taken to get people using it is challenging. That said, several of you already have town emails, Larry, Kathy, Ann, and Ray. I would encourage you to use your town emails for this business. But for the rest of you, I would encourage you to create a folder in your personal email and put all communications relating to the Lions Hall Study Committee, or whatever we amend the name to, in there. It's for easy access. The other big thing about email is you cannot do business over email. You cannot have you cannot have conversations about committee business over email. You can't go back and forth with somebody about committee business. That's actually considered an illegal meeting. The best practice that we're going to ask you to do is, if you have anything you want to distribute to the group, please send it to Kathy or to Sherry, and they will send it out. I will give both Kathy and Sherry an email list, and they'll be able to disseminate it. Okay, so that gets rid of group emails. That gets rid of reply alls. Reply all is not your friend. Reply all is your sworn enemy. Just stay away from that button entirely. Don't use it in regards to this committee. Cannot stress that. And I'm saying that phrase a lot, but it's going to make your life easier. Okay? Because that creates, as soon as 4 of you are on an email and you start, one person replies all, you have now had an illegal meeting. And we just want to avoid that. Also, anything that you write in reference to the Lions Hall from this point forward is considered subject to the 91A right to know requests. So please, when you're writing emails about this topic, think about what you would want put on the front page of the newspaper. Think about what you would want read at your grandmother's birthday party. And that's kind of, think about that language and that content when you write emails. And please refrain from using text messages.
I
If you
have a
can.
question.
Yes, David?
You are aware, Kirsten, that I do a lot of work for the Historical Society.
Mm-hmm.
That meeting house is the subject of a booklet that I've written,
Mm-hmm.
and which the Historical Society normally sells for $7 a copy.
Mm-hmm.
I am still working on that and will be continuing to work on that. How does that work out with the public information? Because it's something that's normally sold.
Mike?
If I may, Madam Chair, so I think I wouldn't worry about the book. I think the answer to that is that what we're worried about is we're worried about governmental records, right? So in this context, when it comes to 91A requests, yes, we're worried about what happens in a meeting and not creating illegal meetings, but we're also worried about governmental records, because only governmental records have to be disclosed under a right to know request, or in response to a right to know request. What is a governmental record? It is something that is transmitted to or among a quorum of the board, or something that is done in furtherance of or on behalf of the board. So because you're doing that in your private capacity, or in your capacity on behalf of the Historical Society, I'm not concerned that it's being done on behalf of the board or in furtherance of your board function or your board work. So I wouldn't worry about the book.
However, if you're going to reach out to somebody and ask that they come speak to the committee or come look at the building on behalf of the committee, first of all, that should be a decision made in here, but that would be considered 91A from this point forward. So, for example, Anne, you reach out to Aaron Sturgis to ask him a question about the building from this point forward, and then you bring that to the committee, that becomes a governmental record. So.
Perhaps you'd like to suggest that any reach out to the committees would be done through the chair to limit that.
I think the chair, and that's up to the chair to determine at that point, but yeah, so.
And if I may, Madam Chair, I guess just one additional point is, illegal meetings are bad. We don't want to create illegal meetings, but creating governmental records is not in and of itself bad. And so you're not violating the statute by creating a governmental record. It's just that somebody might come asking for it and we might have to produce it. So just keep that in mind.
I guess the easiest way to say it is, if you don't want the whole world to know about it, we don't have any illegal meetings. And if we want to look professional, we don't have any illegal meetings, because that'll lose our credibility. So, and you're going to go, you went over hub and spoke, as I used to call it, on where if I email you and say I want this decision, and you email John and say we're going to stick up with Kathy, and then you email Derek, and we all are emailing each other, we could get in trouble for that.
Any decision should be made in public in a public meeting. And that's the idea, right? You all are doing this because you want to do this for the public, right? So.
If I may, Madam Chair, just to amplify your point, that you have it exactly right. I mean, just because you can devise some clever way to not create an illegal meeting, but you're doing something like you just described, it's a separate, an independent violation of the statute to do something that violates the spirit and intent of 91A. So, you could use your imagination and try to figure out how to get around it. That doesn't get you off the hook.
Does anyone have any questions regarding 91A? No. Everybody's clear, everybody's comfortable. David, are you all set?
I've got something I'm going to talk to Mike about afterwards and find out whether it's okay.
Okay, all right. Do we have any more business?
Madam Chair, if I may?
Yes.
Solely for, I don't want to create any headlines that might distract from the board's work or the organizational meeting or the good work that's been done here tonight. And I don't see anybody here from the public, but
So we are going to have public comment.
Okay.
Okay, so just a quick beginning, end, both? What's your feel? Continuous? Throughout, like people can, when we're discussing?
I don't think it's a bad idea. Personally, I don't think it's a bad idea to have public comment beforehand and afterwards, after people have heard the discussion from.
If everybody's okay with that, then I think we'll do that. Because we might come up with things and somebody might be sitting in the audience that can say you're on the wrong track or the right track.
Or they learn information in our
Right.
discussion that
In accordance
changes.
with the charter, you can set whatever rules you want. You can have continuous public comment if you so desire.
Right, that was the other thing I was at. Do you want, like, if we're discussing a topic, and do we want to just let people come up at any time in the meeting? Or do we want it set public comment?
I think that's up to the chair.
Yeah.
You really want, okay,
I
I
don't-
personally, because of how important the meeting hall is, I have no problem with continuous.
I've got no
I mean, if,
problem with
if we're talking something and there,
Yeah.
we luck out and get an expert on,
Yeah.
you know,
Provided-
joisting or flooring or beams, I'd love to hear from them.
Yeah, provided the chair is able to
Calm them
manage it,
down.
and if we get someone running on and on and on.
Right, and we could, we can limit, please keep your comments to a limit, but
But I
are we
mean,
comfortable with letting people come up continuously? Only because this isn't,
you get
I don't want the public not involved in this.
No. If you allow continuous comment, the comments are gonna be far more to the point than somebody trying to remember something an hour later.
But I hope we don't always go hours.
I'm
But that's-
hoping we don't go too late, that's why I like the 6. I tend to shut down around 8 o'clock.
Upon being recognized by the chair, we will allow public comment
Right,
at any time during the meeting. It's
so
just a
that,
rule simply
I
that work.
I personally, but I'm not a chair in the sense of the ruler, even though I am. I kind of want your input. So if you're all comfortable with that, I'm fine. I just think, do you think it'll be disruptive to the meeting? That's the only thing.
I'm fine with it, but you have to manage it, you know what I mean? It's,
Well, I can manage that. I don't have a problem with that. So I can shut a lot of people down if they're going kindly. But, I just want people involved. I think the only way we're
I think
gonna,
you're right, because it's the people's building.
correct. And I would like, at this point moving forward and, before we adjourn, I would like all literature from now on as the chair, and you guys can support me or not, that it's no longer called the Lions Hall, and I'm sorry, Frank and John, but, it is the Reverend Morrison Meeting House, and in order to get the support for it, what they're running into over at the First Presbyterian Church is just that. It's called the First Presbyterian Church rather than the Meeting House. And people are gun shy about donating because they think they're donating to the church rather than to the building. So I want this to be clear that yes, the Lions are part of this building. The building is actually the Reverend Morrison Meeting House.
Madam Chair, could you please make that an official vote because that's a significant change? Could you please go through a motion on that one?
Okay, can I have a motion? If everybody's in agreement to make a motion regarding changing the title of our charge from the Lions Hall to the Reverend Morrison Meeting House.
I second
When you
that.
make that motion, could it please be to make a recommendation to the town council to change the name?
Okay, a recommendation to the town council. Would anyone like to make the motion?
I'd like to make a recommendation to the town council that we call our committee, or any time we refer to the building, Reverend Morrison's Meeting House.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, second by Larry.
So,
Who
Madam
makes the motion?
Madam Chair, was Ms. Champa speaking as an alternate for Dan Gore
Oh.
in that case?
You could
Yeah,
appoint me as a full
she's,
member.
well, why don't I haven't appointed you for the whole
I
meeting.
know, you could have, because you
Right,
only
but
have 6.
David or Larry or someone else, can you make, because I have
will
not,
propose exactly what she said
Right.
verbatim.
Okay. Delightful.
And do we need a,
I need a
another
second,
second.
Larry's
I
the
second
second. All those in favor, say aye.
I-
Aye.
6-0, the motion passes.
If I may, Madam Chair, so just, there's an interim period here between the recommendation from this board and the next council meeting, and there is a meeting of this body, I'll call it. In the meantime, I have to go off of, in terms of preparing the agenda and the website and what have you, what the council has recognized. I anticipate that they'll probably look favorably on this request, but just so,
So up until the 15th,
correct.
when they have their meeting,
Yes.
will be considered the Lions Hall, but in
Correct.
the future after that, we'll move on to the Meeting House.
Yes.
That's fine.
thank you.
Okay. Do we have any more business?
I do just have one last question.
Please, Derek.
Moving forward, I understand that this is phase 1, right? And there will be multiple phases as follow-up. Once phase 1 has been spoken about, decisions have been made, and phase 2 needs to come to a head. Will the same board be present for that, so we're not losing all the steam that we had during phase 1?
I believe if we, Mike, and you can correct me, but if we come up with a plan for phase 1 and determine that phase 2 is the next step, a new charge will have to come out and a new committee will have to be formed.
I'd have to look at the existing charge, but what I could, I know for a fact is that the charge just requires the committee to deliver a report within 90 days. I don't believe it says it will dissolve, and I think it's an ad hoc committee that continues until the council says otherwise. So.
I believe we can change it to a task force after the report is resolved.
I think that's correct. So I think that if it's a multi-phase thing, I think that the council certainly would entertain a motion to, or would entertain extending it or changing it so that it can continue its work. Because I think everybody recognizes that the long-term plan is probably not going to be sorted out in 90 days.
And if it goes to a task force, individuals can be reappointed that are on the original committee, and new individuals that want to take a chance at or put their information out there could get appointed if someone steps down. Is that correct?
Depends on how we change it. If we change the committee to a task force, we'll have to double check this, but we may be able to leave the current members in place and just change the charge and change it to a task force with the new charge. We'll have to double check that. I'm pretty sure we can do that, but we'll have to double check that.
And once it becomes a task force, does it have all the same regulations as the committee being appointed? So they would have to follow 91A and all, okay.
The main difference is it's really the way that we legally handle committees and task force. A task force is the first step to moving into a permanent committee, which would be another step under the charter. But we'd have to make sure we follow the procedures correctly, but I think we've done this before.
Correct. I think that the.
Well, we've done this. We've had the historic committee, the Historic Society suggest a task force that their charter was to come back with the 111 buildings in town that we should preserve, and so we've done this. I just want to make sure that if new people get excited about, kind of like Derek, get excited about this, we can get them on the committee.
And Madam Chair, if I may, there's nothing that says that you can't coordinate a volunteer force to help you as well. That is not an official voting member of the board. So you can recruit volunteers to assist you.
Okay, any more questions? Seeing none, the chair asks for an adjournment.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Frank and David. So Frank makes the motion, David seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 6-0, we are adjourned. Oh, do I get to go like this?
Good desire.